there a medal for being an astute film critic and going above and beyond the Call of Duty, I give the VC to VC. The Victoria Cross of Films to Van Connor, because he sighs his way through some of the terrible offerings on Freeview, and he always comes up with 1, 2, 3 fascinating, cracking recommendations for us. I try and match his 3 with 3 of my own, and he's back now on the weekend that football returns to the Premier League. Good morning, Van. How you doing, matey?
I'm all good, Mr. Ross. It's a pleasure as always. I had no idea the football was back.
Oh, yeah, it's back tonight. Arsenal versus Brentford, and then tomorrow we've got the big game, Man United versus Leeds. But I know you've got your eyes firmly on the cinema, and a film about which I must confess I know very little, apart from the fact it's got one of the greatest titles of all time. I don't know what type of film it is. I don't know anything about it apart from the fact you've recommended it, so it's worth a look. It's on BBC One tonight. 10:35 p.m. You've got to love the BBC for sticking with those unusual start times. It's called, get a load of this, folks, The Peanut Butter Falcon. Nothing to do, I suspect, with the Marvel Cinematic Universe Falcon.
No, sadly not. This is not a
not up there with the Nutella Magneto, for example.
Yeah, this is not a condiment
the raspberry jam Hulk. None of those things.
Would you call it a condiment? Is peanut butter a condiment?
I'd have said, no, just a spread.
Spread. Yeah, we'll go with it. This is not a spread super. No, this is effectively Huckleberry Finn with wrestling, if you can imagine that.
Okay.
Yeah, starring Shia LaBeouf and Zach Gottsagen. Now, Zach Gottsagen stars as young man who's the central character here. His name's Zach. He's 22-year-old young man with Down syndrome who effectively stages a jailbreak from the care facility in which he's looked after and goes on this Huckleberry Finn-like quest to reach a wrestling school. And I think the famous wrestler who runs this school is like Saltwater Jack or Saltwater Kelly.
Not Saltwater Taffy. That's not the Americans eat that coffee.
Sadly, no.
Saltwater Taffy and the peanut. That would be a fantastic superhero spread confectionery combo.
He's the Saltwater Redneck, I just remembered. Anyway, he teams up with a fisherman down the way. They build a raft, and you've literally got a Huckleberry Finn type setup where you have this sort of deviant criminal fisherman, Shia LaBeouf, and your new Huckleberry Finn, who wants to become a wrestler named the Peanut Butter Falcon.
Okay, let me ask you this. It's on 10:35 tonight. Is it a bit more grown up, a little bit dark, maybe?
It is a little bit dark, and you get this chase on as well. They've got the social worker from the care facilities played by Dakota Johnson. She's chasing them all the way. It's a slightly odd film, but it's this really touching, really sweet dramedy. I think you'll like it, Paul. It's a very heartfelt film. It's a very soulful drama. I think it'll move you.
Well, I like the title, so I'll be watching the film. It's The Peanut Butter Falcon. It's on tonight, BBC One, 10:35 p.m, and you've got a clip for us, I think.
I've got a clip here. This is Dakota Johnson's social worker character catching up with them and basically being sort of talked into joining them.
Here we go.
We're a little late to the party. This is what's going on. I made a promise to him to give him that wrestling school in Aden. Oh. You understand? Mm-hmm. I gave him my word, and I ain't going back down on my word. Now, you seem like a nice person. You care for him and all. You came all the way out here. Maybe it's because you like me. I don't know. Yeah. And, I'm offering you a favor. You can get on that raft with us and you can ride down there if you want.
No, we're not going to hop on your little raft and cruise around down the river.
It's hot. You're confused. I'm not asking you.
Hey, Eleanor.
Oh.
I want to see a saltwater redneck, and I don't want to go home.
It does sound intriguing, I must confess, so I'll give that Journey movie a look. And also I'm looking forward to seeing again my recommendation, and this I think is an absolute cracker. It's now, I think it's 17 years old now, this film. Layer Cake from 2004. It's got, of course, Daniel Craig as this kind of... It's basically a film of kind of, I would call it snobbery with violence, because he's a very upper middle class cocaine dealer, and he wants to get out of the cocaine business. He's surrounded though by gangsters, ne'er-do-wells, all of them brutal people. A great cast though. Tom Hardy, Jamie Foreman, who's brilliant in it, Sienna Miller, who's gorgeous in it, Michael Gambon pops up, Cole Meany. Things, of course, with this kind of film never go according to plan, but I do wonder whether this was this, do you reckon this role and his kind of charisma and his brutality for Daniel Craig, do you think this helped him get the Bond movie?
Oh, hands down, absolutely. Because I don't think anyone looked at Daniel Craig before this. He'd done a couple of thrillers, I think, where he'd gone kind of almost horror movie disturbing in them. But I think this is the closest you'll find to a proper Bond-type turn from him, pre-Casino Royale, definitely.
Directed by Matthew Vaughn. It's very brutal indeed, very funny indeed as well, and very full-on. 11:15 tonight on Film 4. It's Layer Cake. And then we go to the second recommendation of our pal, Van Connor, of course. This is a kind of romantic-y, not exactly a rom-com, it's slightly kind of supernaturally, this one, isn't it? The Lake House.
This is pure slush rum-dram, this one, Mr.
Oh, you've done it again, so here he goes. Go on then.
I'm not gonna deny on this one. This is pure slush rum-dram. This is not even Notebook good. This is minorly charming. I'm not gonna claim this is a great movie. So this was, remember Post-Speed? There was a sort of a low-key sort of general pop culture love for the idea of recoupling Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock.
Yeah.
And it took about a decade, and then we got The Lake House from Alejandro Agresti. We went through this phase where we had a wave of European filmmakers stepping in to direct some truly bizarre, random mainstream Hollywood films. This was one of them. And it's like, the idea is Sandra Bullock moves into a very, very cool, Chicago, vintage Chicago architecture lake house that has a mailbox into which she discovers if she places any object, it somehow appears several years in the past where it can be accessed by the previous owner, Keanu Reeves, and they become effectively pen pals across time, falling for one another. But of course, it's clearly not meant to be. This is on 5-star at 7 o'clock on Saturday night. So the hour should tell you the kind of audience it goes for. But it's very slush. It's a little cringe, but it's very charming, as you'll hear in this clip.
And who doesn't love Sandra Bullock? So it's 5-star tomorrow night, 7 p.m. It's The Lake House.
Okay, your turn. Favorite things?
Where to start? Okay. When I smell the flowers before I see them. When it starts to rain just as the picnic is ending. And I love the smell of Jack's paws.
You didn't forget to mention your husband, did you?
Oh, well, of course I love my husband, who is also a doctor, plastic surgeon, for small farm animals.
Good. I'm married too. I've got 8 children, and none of them look like me. I'm worried, Kate.
I would be too.
I'm single.
Me too.
We've had a vote of confidence in your first recommendation from Stuart, the QPR fan, who says, I think that Paul would love the peanut butter Falcon. And then he says, Sienna Miller is awesome in Layer Cake. We won't go into why, but you go on.
I'm just going to point out as well that 3 years after this movie, Sandra Bullock would win an Oscar. So let's let that
she's great, and she can act. And I mean, I think I have seen this film years ago now, and it's cute enough. But I kind of think the problem was they were trying to cast Keanu Reeves in a few films around this time as a romantic leading man, and it doesn't work. I mean, he's great as John Wick. He's great in The Matrix. He's got this otherworldly quality. Cary Grant, though, he ain't. But anyway, that's The Lake House.
Have you seen Destination Wedding, Paul, where he reunites with Winona Ryder? That is cringe as hell.
Thankfully, I haven't, and I don't even want that title in my head. But listen, I've got a couple of antidotes to too much slush now. One is 10:05 Saturday morning, dated, but it has got in black and white Lee Marvin riding a motorbike. It's the Wild One from 1958 with Marlon Brando playing Johnny. What are you rebelling against? He says, what have you got? That's 10:05 in the morning. But my big recommendation is one of my favourite films of all time, from Michael Caine's absolute purple patch when he hit the ground running so many times, from 1966. It's Alfie, 9 o'clock, Saturday night. It's a reminder of what a brilliant actor he is, because he does that thing, and it was a revelation at the time, when I think they call it breaking the fourth wall, don't they? Talks directly to the audience while the action's going on around him. This is a masterclass in filmmaking and acting, I think, this film, Van.
Oh, absolutely. Alfie's one of those movies now, you look back on it. And we saw this when they tried to do that remake with Jude Law like 15 years ago, which was perfectly fine, but it did highlight the one thing that we never talk about with Alfie, which is for how iconic and how cool a movie it is. It's quite a down and dirty kitchen sink drama. There's something quite Saturday night, Sunday morning.
Backstreet abortions in it, and there's tuberculosis in it, and there's a kind of the fact that, Alfie's spectacular fall from grace, if you like, but it is a great movie. Brilliant soundtrack as well. It's from 1966. It's Alfie. And here's the trailer designed to sell the concept of London, a less than swinging London in the 60s, to the American audience.
Well, you all settled in? Right, we can begin. My name is...
Alfie!
Alfie.
Alfie, bubbles with impudent humor and ripe modern wit, says the New York Times.
I was having a beautiful little life. There was this manageress of a dry cleaners. And I was getting a suit cleaned in the bargain.
Everybody's running after Alfie.
Do you love me?
What can I say when you ask? You shouldn't ask, you know. I'll tell you when I feel like it.
Would you like me to give you something to make you sleep?
Now, there's a good idea.
All right, then. Come with me.
Michael Caine gives a brilliant performance, says Red Book magazine. Is Alfie really as good as all that?
Now, what's your dicky bird?
Shelley Winters thinks so.
Now, what's your address?
Alfie returns the compliment.
She's in lovely condition.
Condition is everything in life.
I'll just get you ready for your injection, Mr. Elkins.
Oh, thank you, nurse.
And when he has his dalliance with the nurse, he turns to the camera and says, "It's amazing what you can get on the NHS these days." I mean, it's just a funny film. It's, you know, his attitude is quite brutal, but he does get his comeuppance to an extent. But it's a very funny film, very good film indeed. That's Alfie. Tomorrow night on Great Classic Films, which is a Freeview channel, formerly Sony Classic. And my next recommendation, I may have recommended this before. I make no apologies for it because I was lucky enough to be taken by my dad to see this at the Pictures, the cinema, when it came out in 1971, 72. It's 50 years old this year, this film. And it's one of the great examples of split-screen cinema. And Steve McQueen made this and the Thomas Crown Affair before it, and it's a brilliant use of split screen. But those films never really worked on the old-fashioned dimensions of the television. Until we all got widescreen tellies, you couldn't really appreciate the brilliance of this split screen usage. I mean, it's a ferociously difficult process, brilliantly done. It's called Le Mans, not a lot of dialogue. 2 directors, a very troubled production history because Steve McQueen initially signed John Sturgis, who directed him in The Magnificent Seven, of course, and I think in The Great Escape. That didn't really work out. Basically, he wanted to be filmed racing because he loved racing, won a 24-hour race in the States, never got to compete properly in Le Mans. Amazing racing scenes, amazing soundtrack, some great lines in it. It's a real kind of almost, without being pretentious, existential racing movie, this one. Have you seen this recently at all, this one, Van, on a wide screen?
I have, actually, because there was the documentary a couple of years ago, Steve McQueen, The Man and Le Mans, that goes into the history. By the way, I just want to say, I'm so incredibly jealous. What a childhood memory to have. Going with your dad to see Le Mans. I remember watching the Le Mans 66, or Ford v Ferrari, about 2 years ago, and wishing I could have been a kid watching that in the cinema with my dad. But the Steve McQueen, Le Man and Le Mans documentary is a phenomenal look at just the absolute horror show that was the production.
And of course, he was.
I presume you must have seen it.
Well, I've seen it. It's brilliant, and he was the biggest star in the world at the time, and everything he touched up until then turned to gold. So it's on Sunday, 15:15 midday, 12:15 on BBC Two, folks. It's really worth recording. As I say, it's slow at times, but if you're in any way into motorsports, it's an absolute belter. 50 years old this year, and here's some of the great kind of laconic dialogue you get in the film.
At 200 miles an hour, the pressure of winning and losing is tough enough. Explaining it to someone else makes it even tougher.
This isn't just a 1,000-to-1 shot. This is a professional blood sport. And it can happen to you. And then it can happen to you again.
What is so important about driving faster than anyone else?
A lot of people go through life doing things badly. Racing's important to men who do it well. Racing, it's life. Anything that happens before or after, just waiting.
Le Mans. The men. The machines. The motion picture. Steve McQueen stars in it. No one else could.
I mean, what a line that is. Racing is life. Anything that happens before or after is just waiting. I mean, that is an amazing line. It's a great film. That's my big recommendation for the weekend. 15:15 midday on Sunday on BBC Two, Le Mans from 1971. And meanwhile, your final recommendation to cheer us all up on a Sunday night, 10 o'clock on 5. I think, oh no, it's in the afternoon. Sorry, isn't it? I'm going bonkers. 2:10 in the afternoon.
2:10, easy mistake, that one.
Tell us, and we all know why. This is a cracker. Adam Sandler, one of his finest hours. The Wedding Singer.
Yeah, The Wedding Singer, I think it's not his first actual successful film. I think that's Billy Madison, technically. But this is the first one I would say is a huge smash hit for him. I mean, Happy Gilmore had been a moderate success as well, but this is the first that became a bona fide sleeper hit. I think this was the first to break 100 million. It is an 80s set rom-com that wound up sort of creating this partnership with great chemistry that we've never somehow been able to duplicate in Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore. They've paired them up 3 times now. now, and they've never managed to get
I like the film. What was the film where she had a kind of memory problem, memory loss, and he had to woo her again every day? That was quite a cute film.
That was 51st Dates.
Right.
I think that was 2004. So this is 6 years earlier. I think 2004 is 51st Dates, and then 2011 or 2012 you get Blended. Yeah. I think where they try to get. Never works quite as well as the Wedding Singer, in my opinion. But he is the 1980s small town wedding singer Robbie Hart, with aspirations of writing songs for the big leagues, and he falls for an engaged waitress, his sort of platonic friend who sort of joins the community hall where they have all the weddings. She's the waitress. They become fast friends. He helps her plan for her wedding because who else knows the industry quite as well as the guy who's there for all of it? And he finds himself falling for her, and it's of course this great rom-com of the couple who are meant to be but can't quite be, and it's all taking place against this wonderful, colourful 80s backdrop, so enriched that it even goes so far as to include the greatest musical cameo in all of modern cinema, in my opinion. Billy Idol as himself.
Yeah, and the guy at the airport has got the flock of seagulls hairdo as a touch. And, listen, I've been married 3 times. It's too expensive a hobby. I can't do it again. But were I to do it again, I'd want to hire the Def Leppard wedding tribute band featured in this film, because everything about this film works, doesn't it?
Absolutely everything does. It's all the gags. It's all the Eddie Van Halen references. It's all the Miami Vice riffs. Everything. It's the DeLorean. Every little nook and cranny of this film is just charming and wonderful and perfect. And of course, it all starts with one of the great Adam Sandler exchanges when he's the wedding singer, of course, dumped before his own wedding at the start of this movie by the fiancée who's come to realise his station in life, which is our clip, funnily enough.
Here we go then. It's The Wedding Singer. It's 2:10 Sunday afternoon. It's an absolute belter, folks. Have a listen.
I woke up this morning and I realized I'm about to marry a wedding singer. I am never going to leave Ridgefield.
Why do you need to leave Ridgefield? We grew up here. All our friends are here. It's the perfect place to raise a family.
Oh, yeah. Living in your sister's basement with 5 kids while you're off every weekend doing wedding gigs at a whopping $60 a pop?
Once again, things that could have been brought to my attention yesterday!
God, I love that film. It's on 5. It's Sunday afternoon. And tell us about how we can hear you and Rebecca Perfect, who joins us on a Monday for Showbiz and Tech News, how we can hear you two guys in podcast form, Van.
You can hear Bex and I on the Off-Screen Show on podcast platforms every Friday from 6 a.m. So just a couple hours from now.
Brilliant stuff, Van. We'll do it all again next Friday with different movies, of course. On the way, though, the Met Office with your Premier League weekend weather.